there's about 2 to 3 fairy thoughts.
Making a full circle around us this moment. Black and white light, full circle. You ready?
Hello and welcome to the GhostÉire Channel. My name is Anthony Kerrigan and I'm joined tonight by blogger, podcaster and author Chaplain Jodi Dehn. Hi Jodi.
Hi Anthony, long time no see.
I know I took a year out there. I hope everyone is keeping well. I think we're going live there from everywhere. And I might experience a few technical problems tonight. I don't know if anybody knows about this, about the magnetic storm that's happening, a solar storm. So there might be trouble on the technical side there. If you're out ghost hunting, watch out for your K2 me's. It's going to be like Christmas. But we're going to be talking to Jodi about her podcast station called Survivor Angels, also Spirit versus Angel, and also the Celestial Thread. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them forward on this live broadcast here. You can also go to our website, www.ghostére.net, go to the contact page, fill in the blanks. If you have a private message, just put in brackets, private message. Also, if you're affiliated with any paranormal team or any tourist attraction, feel free to name the team or the organization, put it in brackets, and we'll give a shout out to you as well. We're coming live from Facebook here and also our website. So you can press the red button, the GhostÉire Channel on our homepage. You can see the live there. It'll be recorded later on before I come off Facebook there. You can also see past shows there and what is coming up in the future there. Just a few shout outs there. Louise Cremins, which I think is my sister-in-law. She is, and she just blank. Jonathan, how you doing? From Fermanagh, how you doing? Hope everything's going. I'm not going to say now, but maybe later on after the show, you can see the Northern Lights. Supposed to be purple, green skies there, Jodi.
Yes.
Eugene, says, hi everyone, Eugene from Afterlife Paranormal. How you doing, Eugene? We won't talk about Manchester United at the moment. We'll leave that to another day. But it's great to see you there, Jodi, there. Thank you for coming on there. It's been over a year, and it's great to, the first person I'm going to interview coming back is yourself there, and it's no better person to interview. First of all, can you tell us what got you into what you're doing today?
That is, I don't know if we have enough time for all of that, Anthony.
The debate, you know, I suppose to do with the podcast, I suppose, you know, I know there's, I'll come to the other bits there, but I suppose what drove you spiritually? What was the first drive spiritually?
Right. Well, of course, I don't know how many of your listeners or viewers happen to know this. I am an ordained pastor. I hold a Master of Divinity Degree from Luther Seminary. It's a 4-year program. I have been an ordained pastor for almost 30 years now. And of course, I did the usual parish work and everything. I was also a U.S. Army chaplain for 6 years. I have a total of 9 years in the Army. And I was to the point where I know this is my calling. I mean, there's no doubt about it whatsoever. And it's like, but I'm supposed to be doing something different.
Right.
And so as I'm reflecting and meditating, angels kept popping up. And I'm going, what's the deal with angels? I mean, I had my first angel experience at the age of 3. Now, I didn't realize it was 3 until just a short time ago. I knew it was 4. But then one day again, as I'm thinking about all of this, the incident that happened or situation, when I was 3 came up. And so thankfully, my mother is still alive. She's 95, bless her heart.
Oh,
She is sharp as can be. And so I just kind of generally mentioned the situation to her, and she's like, you know, that was angels that intervened, right? I said, thank you. That's what I needed to have confirmed. And so my first one was at the age of 3. And so over the course of all of this, I've just been sort of remembering all the different milestones in my life or events or situations of where the angels truly came into play, whether it was a good situation, whether it was a bad situation. And I sort of started documenting all of these and thought, so what am I supposed to do with this? Okay. Everybody nowadays struggles. Life is a struggle for most people. Then we have people who have actually experienced traumatic events, of which I have. I am a trauma survivor. I do not believe people are victims once the experience has passed, and that we need to get past this victim mentality. Therefore, came the birth of survivor angels. How can I help people to realize they're not victims? And with the help of their angels, who have always been with them, that they can manage to get through a lot of this mental fog that's keeping them from thriving in life, if you will. Now, first thing I will tell you is I'm not a professional therapist. I had counseling while I was in seminary. That was part of our classes. But as far as therapy goes, I am not that. And I point that out. If people are to the point where they feel they need therapy, they need to go seek that help somewhere else. So Survivor Angels is just sort of a piece that can guide people, give them some comfort, give them some courage by using their angels. And of course, I use 7 different angels very regularly. I actually work with a total of 17. The other 10, they're not as regular because their gifts and what they bring to the table are a little less useful, shall we say.
Yeah. Well, I suppose we'll touch on that in the middle bit, because we've got too much to give away, because that's really interesting, because we'll go through the different angels as well, you know. Matthew says, howdy guys, here but can't chat. That's fine. You can write it down. You can write away there, Matthew. You don't have to talk at all. So, I think he's in California there at the moment. So How you doing, Matty? I know he's probably just needs to get off there, you know. So also later on, folks, we got a competition where you have a chance to go into a Halloween mega draw, but stay tuned for that. And yeah, so Jodi, the Survivor Angels. So, can you tell us, like, so you worked in the military? Have there been like severe ups and downs, you know, on that journey with the military?
With the military, the first time I was in the military was almost right out of high school. I went off to college for a couple of years, and then I thought, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, so I'm going to enlist in the military, which I did. Well, Vietnam was still going on. I'm really dating myself here. And when I went in that first time, I was actually a worldwide broadcaster. I did radio shows that went all over the world, and I went to locations where there were no women. And so I was like the only female voice that they heard.
Right.
Now, what we did is I sat in DC and recorded all of these shows, and then they were sent out. And we went to 41 or 42 military installations all across the world. So I would hear from people. They would write into me and say, I'm lonely. I got marriage proposals. They couldn't even see my face.
I suppose I was wondering, yeah, I would think about that. A lady there, and I know back probably then in those circumstances, there weren't many women in war at that situation there.
Mm-hmm. Right. You know, and so, or they would pour their hearts out about how they were feeling because they had just come out of a combat situation. Or they did have a breakup with a girl because they were off on leave or something, and they met someone, and it was, for lack of a better word, it was a one night stand. Or they found out that they'd lost a loved one back home, and they're a million miles away, and they're trying to deal with their grief.
Yeah.
And so, as far as that part went, I sort of already became a counselor at that point. But then because I hadn't been through any of those courses, it became traumatic for me because I didn't know how to set my boundaries. And I'm an empath. And so I was absorbing all of this internally to the point of where then I was having emotional and mental issues. Well, back then, you didn't go into the doctor unless you were literally on your deathbed. And certainly if it was anything with mental health, they didn't know what to do with you. There weren't things in place back then. So I got out. After 3 years, I got out. I met my first husband, and he was an Army brat, and he's like, I've had it with the military. I don't want to do this anymore. And at that point, because I was struggling mentally, it was like, fine. So when I went back in, it was actually 20 years later. But then in the meantime, I'd had all these traumatic things happen to me, such as a car accident and some abuse and some other things, of which I also had some very serious abuse the first time that I was in the military, because women back at that point in time, and of course, even like World War I and World War II and back even farther, they were seen to have no value, no worth, except for being objects for the men. And so those were the sorts of traumatic things that I went through, you know, in the military back in that time period.
Yeah.
So when I went in 20 years later, at that time, leading up to that, of course, I had all my Vietnam brothers that came into my life. And some of that trauma continued because it was the male mentality. I understand that now. I didn't understand it then because my dad came from a very large family, 14 siblings. They all treated each other very respectfully, and it was seven boys and 7 girls. So it was an equal match, and those girls would take the boys to task, let me tell you.
Yeah.
So all of this was something that I had to learn how to cope with and deal with. So then the second time that I went in, I never did see any combat, but I certainly had to counsel those who did. Now, my son, who is retired from the Army. He did 20 years active. Now, with all of this after 9/11, he actually went in 1996.
Right.
He's frontline combat, did 20 years. He did 4 tours of Iraq and Afghanistan in the front lines. So he had major deployments. He was embedded with special forces on numerous occasions. So all through this 20 years with him, being mom, being an empath, I walked that whole 20 years with him, mentally and emotionally. He would call me from Afghanistan and Iraq, and all of a sudden the line would go dead.
Yeah, that's it.
I knew
Yeah.
nothing except
Yeah.
something happened. And of course, they're on sat phones, so you're at the mercy of that too. And there were a few times where it wasn't good, and I heard about it after the fact. So, of course, my imagination, being a military person, just went off the charts. And I am feeling and channeling him from, again, a gazillion miles away. And so I was feeling his fear while he was there and not knowing, what the fear was all about. So his 20 years in the military was very trying for me as well. And of course, thank God for my faith, because that was one of the things that saw me through.
I suppose
And then, being a chaplain in the military. Oh, go ahead.
No, it's just saying. I was just about to say that with yourself being in there, how it feels like, you have to. It's you put your country before yourself. You know that yourself there, and the aim, the task that you have to do there, but you also is your loved one there over there as well, and that's, you feel the mission. It's the mission, but it's your loved one as well, Carry on talking there, Jodi. Yeah.
And through the 20 years, that's when the angels really came to the forefront for me. Because, like I said, I've gone back. I know when I had them at those other points in my life, which are numerous. But in walking that 20 years with him, they would be giving me the messages. The gut feeling, the intuition that some people call it. I don't call it a gut feeling or an intuition. That's angel messages coming through. And once you open yourself to the angels and you know that that's them, the messages are even clearer and they're louder, and you know what those messages are, just like that. I've gotten to the point where generally within a couple of seconds, I know they're there, and I'm listening or feeling, knowing, whatever the case might be, and I get the messages. Sometimes it's a word, sometimes it's a phrase. Sometimes they're telling me through lyrics or repeating numbers, or I get a ringing in my right ear. Now, you can get a ringing in your left ear, but if it's in your left ear, be very careful, because that's going to be the dark side. That's going to be the fallen angels coming through, which maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But certainly, if you're getting it in your right ear, that's the ones that you want to listen to, because those are the ones that are coming through in light and love. And then I will get colors, I will get auras. And one very interesting thing, and this happened in Ireland the last time I was there. I love this story. I didn't go to the Gale in Cork because it was raining. I have a chronic back situation from the military, and so my back was acting up thanks to your wonderful rainy, damp weather.
It does that, yeah.
But my husband went, and he was there with some other people. Now, I know orbs can be dust, they can be droplets in the air, any of those sorts of things. But one of the women captured a photo, and she showed it to my husband, and he knew it looked different than your typical orb. And I love this, because he said, send it to Jodi on her phone. And so she did, and it came through, and I'm like, oh my gosh, do you know what this is? And she's going, it's an orb. That's, I don't know. There was a shape inside the orb. If you get an orb with any kind of a shape in it, a geometric shape, that's an angel orb.
Right.
And if there's any color with it too, you're going to know which guardian angel, or which archangel it is. And all guardian angels follow down the lines of the archangels because they are all, shall we say, guided by the archangels. They all have their own armies, and of course, Michael is in charge of all of them.
Yeah.
So there was this circle, and I still have it, and I've used it in podcasts too. There was a circle inside the orb, and I said, you had the angels with you in the jail.
Right.
And it might be because of
Was
some
it court? Was it court jail? Was it court jail? Was it, or was it? I suppose in the city, was it court jail?
Yes.
Okay, I was wondering where he goes. Yeah, I mean,
Forgive my pronunciations. I'm American.
We pronounce it different ways here, like jail, goal, gale. It's I know it's different ways there. But I was going back to the podcast there. Can you tell us, or modern society, just divert it away from it there. What do you think about people and material things at the moment? About money and obviously what we're doing now, computers and all that. Is it getting too much, do you think?
It is. Yeah. And people rely too much on it instead of getting out and experiencing life. I mean, my gosh, we don't even get together to talk to each other anymore. We just text each other, message each other. We need to have that connection. That is what our universe is about. That is what our souls are about, is connection. And so absolutely, all this modern technology, uh, it's good to a point. I mean, we do need some of it, but you also have to be so careful because so much of the information that's put out on it, it's false, it's fake. And the more we, move into AI, the worse it's going to get. And that's why I'm so thankful for my seminary education, because I really learned how to research the ancient texts and scripture and even just the ancient writings. You think of the Egyptians and everything. And of course, we'll get into the celestial thread here a little bit more. But there's a thread. There is a thread that runs through it, but you've got to dig deep to find it. And I'm not saying I am right about everything. That's no. But what I do is I do my due diligence and my homework and try to find what that common thread, that common ground is, and then move from there to see where that leads me.
I understand, because when you mentioned AI there, I put up a recent post there about ChatGPT being used there. I've seen it used a lot now recently, and I make sure when I'm writing I make mistakes, so it's genuinely me. Or I use the ChatGPT and I put a few mistakes in, but anyway, spelling mistakes. But anyway, I know it's coming to the fore there with the AI there as well. Going back to the podcast as well, because you've interviewed, you talked to people that have had angels in their life, trauma and that as well. But you've also interviewed people notorious in the paranormal field like Sean Austin and Dave Schroeder. But can you tell us who's stuck out for you there when you've interviewed them there? Is there any particular person you've interviewed that stuck out for you?
Yeah, certainly Dave Schrader. Every time I talk, and Dave only lives like 20 minutes from me. We live very close here.
You can hear his voice from where you are. He's got a very distinguished voice. So it's him,
he does the opening and closing on my podcast.
I know. It's so distinguished. It's so distinguished.
His voice. Every time I talk to Dave, I am more and more amazed and inspired by his depth of knowledge. In fact, he and we did a podcast. Oh gosh, it's been a couple of months ago now. I was on his podcast. He was on mine about 6 months before that. But we talked about angels on his, and some of the questions he came up with I came back and I said, "You're a good Lutheran boy. You learned your stuff well," because he went to Lutheran school growing up. Sorry, Dave. I hope I'm not telling tales out of school here. But certainly, Dave. Love to talk to Dave. Um, Shane Pittman is another one that I love to talk to because Shane has had a lot of trauma in his life.
Mm,
So Shane knows how to relate all of the paranormal and supernatural pieces into that trauma piece, and then also to bring in the angels. So we have great conversations on that level.
mm,
Another person is psychic medium Sarah Lemos.
mm.
Her and I, we did 4 podcasts together, and we called it Unveiling. I have to stop and think. Unveiling Visitants.
Okay.
And what we did is we took evidence that people sent in, and we tried to determine, are we looking at spirit or are we looking at angel?
Mm,
And Sarah and I now are going to be doing a couple of events together where that's part of what we'll be talking about. And I know we're going to get to that a little bit later as well. But Sarah will, be going down one path and I'll bring up something and she'll go, boom, I never thought of that. And then vice versa. I'll be
yeah.
talking and she'll go, oh, but wait a minute. And
Yeah.
then, so we have great
Yeah.
conversations.
You hit off
So
each
those
other.
are the
Yeah. No, it's
those
beautiful when
those
it happens. It can be
yes.
dangerous. It can be dangerous because you do like you sort of hitting off each other there. But carry on there, Jody. So
Those are the ones that pop up initially. Now I'm going to be interviewing Mike Ricksecker on Monday. We'll be recording it, and that one's going to drop then in a couple of weeks. Um, Mike is all about time travel
cool. Yeah.
and the different
Okay.
dimensions
Right.
and time lapses and
Mm.
time slips.
Okay.
And
Cool.
he's a good Catholic boy. And so he's all about the angels and the Nephilim. And so I am really looking forward to that podcast. And I have a feeling it will probably end up being a 2-parter because we're just going to get on a roll. And I
Yeah.
don't know where it will stop. So,
Well, you won't know when it's stuck because it might be a time lapse. So hopefully not. But that's so interesting there because it's time lapses does come up. It is interesting. That's paranormal as it is in itself. I'm just coming
right.
to a few shout outs there. First of all, hi Irene. Irene's in California, and it's I don't know if it's rain there or it's very sunny here at the moment. There, Liz, she's in Northern Ireland. I think you're in Northern Ireland still there, Liz. Anyway, hi, Liz from RIP Paranormal. I hope you're all keeping well. Everyone up there. Gary from Ghost Searchers Iron. Hi, Gary, on your bike, Ghost Rider. Beep beep. Sean, how you doing, Sean? How are you doing? Hope you're keeping well, enjoying the weather as well there. I suppose going back to, I suppose one of the questions there, apart from you say, going back to what you do yourself there, but you listen to a lot of people and you listen to what they did as well in the military and all that, Jody there. But personally, on a personal level, who in a probably spiritual level you would turn to God, but who in person would you turn to and confide in there if you were sad or depressed personally yourself? You don't mind me asking.
Right. Definitely the 3 people that I mentioned. And now it's interesting. I have a couple of good friends in Ireland who are part of a paranormal group. I don't know. Can I name names?
Yeah, you name them. Name them. They're fine there. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I should just call them by first name. Shelley and Quiva. They're with
Paranormal
Paranormal Adventures Ireland, right?
Yeah, their sound
Yes.
are perfect.
Yes. In fact, we investigated at Lep Castle together, and I had an incredible experience there, of which they got a hold of me afterwards and told me the whole backstory with what happened.
Right.
And so I got them on my podcast because it's like, okay, I was with a group from the U.S. here, and we were all there were witnesses to all of this, and it was just like, whoa, boom, what happened? Well, of course, they knew the backstory, and so we had to do a podcast so we could fill them in on what happened, and so I talked to them a lot, and I love them because I mean, the paranormal investigating that you do over there is like leaps, not that we don't have good stuff here, but it's like leaps and bounds beyond what we have here. And I think part of that is because our history isn't as old, our country isn't as old. And one thing that we fail to do here is we fail to tap in to our indigenous people, our Native Americans, and they are so rich with the spirit world, but we don't talk to them enough. And I'm going to come back a little bit more to that when we talk about the celestial thread piece, because I think we are missing a huge opportunity. But then in the meantime, thankfully, we have you in Ireland that gives us amazing experiences in the paranormal.
I suppose we're similar to kind of like Scotland as well. I suppose we're kind of similar, as you say, that way, Scotland, Wales, mainly probably Scotland to do with, I suppose, colonialism and all that, I suppose Australia is the same as America, Australia, Canada, America, big countries, and it's a big space, whilst Scotland and Ireland is very condensed. So we're only down the road from somebody who's buried. I'm not going to say anything at the moment, but that's for another crime channel there, but that's for the crime channel. But there's some castle that's so close by, which is, I was thinking about that as well, But what we'll do is we're going to go into the spirit versus angel stuff, spirit versus angel subject soon. But there's competition time, folks. So if you're still watching and listening, remember we do a Halloween mega draw, and the chance to enter 2 draws. You'll have a chance as well, Jodi, to go into this draw as well. So what the first thing, if you're watching there, we'll go through this question first. We'll come to that question shortly there, Jonathan. What I want anyone that's watching, the keyword to enter the competition is the keyword, as we're saying it as we're doing it today, the keyword is angel. ANGEL. If you can spell it out perfectly, maybe not angle or Angie, but angel. If we can type that in first, be the first one to type that word, you have a chance to enter our Halloween mega draw. So the word is angel. So I'll put this question up anyway whilst people are doing that. It'll come up anyway. Jonathan says, oh, Sean is in there with Angel. We'll come to you in a minute, Sean. You're going to have the first chance to go into, and then it's Jonathan. I'll just put your names down, Sean and Jonathan. So stay tuned, Sean and Jonathan. And if you stay tuned, I'm going to give you an opportunity to go into the Halloween mega draw. First of all, the question there, Jodi, have you ever been to Fermanagh or anywhere in Northern Ireland?
No, that's on, as we say in America, the bucket list, because we have been to Ireland twice. The first time we went into Galway and did, the rings and ended up in Dublin. And then the second time we went into Dublin and went out a short ways, because then we were with, of course, a group, and so we were at the mercy of where they went. So we did, Hellfire Club, we did Cork, we did Charleville. I'm not even going to remember all of them, but it was fantastic. We came over with Mysterious Adventures tours, and ended up back at Dublin. And so my husband and I, we want to come again on our own, and hopefully meet up with some of you and do some investigating.
Yeah.
And so Northern Ireland is yes, that's a to-do.
Yeah, there's some great places. It's actually a county I haven't even done yet there as well, Jonathan. There, I haven't investigated in Fermanagh myself yet. There, I know there's, I think there's a castle. I'm not too sure. There's a Castle Leslie. You might correct me there, Jonathan, if that's in County Fermanagh there. But that's the only place I know in County Fermanagh. But if you know of any other places, feel free to name them there, Jonathan, or private message me so nobody else can see it. That'd be great. That'd be even better there, Special Paranormal Adventures Island. I know they like come in, and you know them, Jodi. So I don't want you might see it before, anyway. So the next subject is spirit versus angel. I know Shelley agree with that beautiful there. And the question I'm going to ask you first of all is, how can you tell the difference between the two?
Okay. This is where I'm probably going to get in trouble with people.
Okay.
But this is my personal opinion from my research, is when you believe that it's a spirit, I believe it's actually an angel who is manifesting through a human form who has passed on, because it's more comfortable and acceptable than if it was an angel coming through. Because if you were to actually see what writings tell us angels look like, they're not with the beautiful wings and the halos and all the soft pastel colors. They are balls of feathers and eyeballs, and they are actually quite grotesque looking. And people would look at it and be running off in another direction. And I've also found different texts that have said that spirits are not capable of speaking. And people say, well, it was my grandmother and she gave me this message. To which I will say, what was the message about? And it's about guidance or protection. Well, that's what angels do. That is their sole job, is to bring us the messages because they're protecting us. And so
that's
that's why I
was going to say to you, because when I do the talking board with my wife, the Ouija board, and the thing is, as people might say, it's bad as well, but we do it on a clearly kind of on the historical kind of research front there, But what we've noticed there is spirit guides that are conversing, not any spirits there. So they're relaying whatever message was from, we call it, there's our spirit guides, angels as well, that they be transferring or conversing with the other spirits there, or noticing what is around us and telling us what to say and what to ask. So you believe that it's actually the angels are talking rather than spirits?
Right. And another reason for that is, this is going to get into a little bit of the soul conversation, because our souls, I believe, once they leave our bodies, there's a whole lot of different things that can happen. And depending on if you're reading, say you have the Bible, whether you're reading Old Testament or New Testament, there's contradictions there as far as what happens. New Testament says immediately your soul is going to go up. Old Testament says, no, you're going to go to this sort of holding place. And of course, the Catholics sometimes call that purgatory. Islam, it's going to elude me now what Islam calls it, but Islam also believes that you sort of go to this holding place. But then you've got, your other cultures and everything that say that the soul sort of goes dormant.
Right, yes.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about the place of holding for Islam and Old Testament, is that like a dormant place?
Yes,
I'm not sure, but it just sort of gives credence to why would spirits come through? Because when the way I've understood it from things that grandparents have said and phrases that they have and everything, is that once they cross over, it's not like they're watching us down here. They might be, but they're sort of oblivious to our pain, to our emotions. They're just sort of like bystanders. non-feeling bystanders. So why would they be bringing us messages?
If they're not
Jury
conscious.
is still out on this.
Yeah.
But
yes, it's interesting.
yeah, maybe it's because I believe so strongly in the angels because of what they've done in my life that I just have to believe that it's the angels that are bringing those messages through. As far as what we're seeing, the angels can manifest. We know they can manifest as our pets, as other creatures. They can manifest as humans. I mean, even the Bible tells us that. And basically, they're energy, so they can manifest in any way, shape, or form that they choose. And of course, fallen angels, the dark angels, they're gonna come across as the pretty angels. They're going to come through as we are the good guys. Listen to what we're saying. Look at us. We look like you. We look normal. And so this gets really complicated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. We've got to talk about that, about the changing from human to from human to angel and angel to human, vice versa. I'm going to name a few angels here. There, you can probably give us a couple of sentences answer there, how they're relevant in people's lives, or what they're associated with. So I'm going to start with probably most people know it, especially the paranormal front. Michael. What is Archangel Michael like?
Michael is literally the archangel who is in charge of all other angels. He is closest to the right hand of God, if you will. And so his main responsibility is to keep the other archangels in their places. Angels have free will. A lot of people don't realize that, but angels have free will, which is why we got the fallen angels, because they're like, okay, yep, we know better. Boom, bye, we're going off down the wrong path here. But so Michael's job is to keep them in line, to give them whatever that they might need. And if God is giving the archangels a message that they're not hearing appropriately, Michael will correct them. Now, as far as Michael and his free will, I believe that Michael is so close to that hand of God that there is no chance ever that he is going to give the wrong message. He is going to make sure that the message gets corrected. Now, the angels also sit at this council, and every day they are sitting there talking about us. And one of them is going to be in charge of finances. Another one is going to be in charge of our careers, our business. Another in charge of our relationships. I mean, it kind of goes down the line. I believe that there's 7 of them that sit at that council. And of course, there's a lot of things to confirm that. And then there's a lot of things that are going, well, no, that's not what they do. But God is also part of that council. He's part of those meetings. But then it's the angel's job to come and bring the messages through to us. So there's Michael. He's number 1.
Jesus, sorry now. I'm just going to say that, Matthew. He's just going to say, I've got to come to your question there, Sean, and yours, Jonathan, there in the next section there. But Matthew says, I'm popping in for a sec. I'm not religious or atheist, but Uriel, is it Uriel? Has always
Uriel.
been that seems to pop into my brain. What's his purpose? That's the next angel I was going to ask about. Matthew.
Uriel's in the top 4.
Yeah, I was going to say next one, Raphael, Gabrielle, but I was going to say Uriel. Can you tell us what Uriel? What does?
Yes. Uriel's on fire. Oh my gosh. Are you in trouble, Matthew, or something that Uriel is always there with you?
Great minds, he says. Yeah. So we're both in trouble.
No, because Uriel is going to be about bringing calm and peace and tranquility out of the chaos. And if it takes wielding a fiery sword, that's what Uriel is going to do. And so, like I said, she's in the top 4 with, or like you said, Anthony, with Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and then Uriel. Uriel is not mentioned as often, but Uriel is definitely definitely mentioned in all of the scriptures and the texts as being one of the 4 main archangels.
Matthew says, yeah, he does have the phoenix on his arm.
Ah,
There is a solar storm at the moment coming from the sun, so that obviously there. So whether that's of any relevance, it's all coming together there. The other angel that I'm going to mention there that I'm focused on myself was the past year was Metatron. So can you describe what Metatron is as well?
I say Metatron, I'll put in somebody's post. I'm sending Metatron, to help you, because Metatron generally helps the parents and helps children, or it has something to do with math. Metatron is the mathematical archangel, right? And people will go, I know you're just talking Marvel comics or DC comics. And I'm like, no, for real, Metatron is an archangel.
Yes,
the difference with Metatron is all angels, and especially the archangels, have never been human. It's like it's a requirement. But there's 2, Metatron and Sandalphon. They were once human. And because of their amazing and incredible works and actions here, when they crossed over, they were granted angelship, if you will, and archangel status. And so, so Metatron, are you having issues with your kids, Anthony?
Me, no, because not kids there, because I was into Enoch as well. So Enochian magic, so that's where Metatron comes up in that kind of way there. But that's more or less Enoch there, but no trouble, no, great with the children. But that's probably the past year I focused more with the children and more or less with my youth, as I said, like going back to just chilling out with the children and that, as well. I'm a child myself, you could say that, but that's yeah. Does he have a preference as well to the occult as well, magic? I know people bad phrase the occult, but like to do with that kind of magic kind of source.
No, it wouldn't be Metatron. Metatron would not have. This is where it gets tricky. I say that I work with a total of 17, because if you start going down past that 17, that's where you really have to research, because a lot of those supposed archangels are known to dabble in the dark side, and it's the dark magic. And there are those that consider some mysticism to be dark, or all mysticism to be dark, which is one reason why the book of Enoch was removed from scripture. Now, I don't agree with that, because that book was written for very valid reasons. And just because those at the time who were deciding what the canon and everything were supposed to be didn't agree with it, it didn't fit their agenda, they pulled it out, or took it out, or didn't put it in, however you want to look at it. But I don't believe that Metatron is part of that. But there are certainly some supposed, at least, archangels where the magic and the mysticism comes into play, and it's because it can go dark with them.
Jonathan says, I'm sorry, but it's Loki one because it just came into my mind. I think that's Norse mythology. Would that be Norse mythology? I would say there. But is there Loki angel?
I've heard both ways. Now you're going to really make me rack my brain. I've been off on so many tangents lately researching. Okay, so let me think back to Loki. Loki certainly has been talked about in that context. And of course, going back to the Norse mythology, which I am going to Norway in August, and I'm going to be doing a ton of research when I get there. So maybe let me reserve that.
Yeah, it's something I look up, because
we'll do another podcast together, Anthony.
Yeah, because it's something that we don't know. There's cross paths with different kind of goddesses and gods, and you know, different kinds of spiritual beings in different kind of cultures there. We'll have to look into it more like that, you know.
Yeah, and that's part of the whole celestial thread piece that I'm working on, which I'm going to be putting out a lot more of that in the next year. And I don't like to say anything that I'm not comfortable with, either what's
Yeah,
coming back into my memory or that I just simply am not real sure of.
yeah, you want to be 100% sure. You can't just, yeah, whatever's common law. I know he's in Marvel anyway. That's one thing. And there's a series about him, but we don't know to be sure. That I know he's definitely Norse mythology. There, I used to have figures up of Marvel from the top of me there, like on that shelf. But that's all. I had to get rid of them because I had to get sensible the past year. But apart from, how can you know when an angel is coming forward anyway? How do you know? How can you communicate? Or is there, so I know you mentioned it briefly there, but is there ways that we can actually reach out instead of them reaching to us as well?
Right. First of all, it's going to be different for everybody. And a lot of that is going to depend on what your strongest clairs are. My two strongest are claircog and clairsentient, claircognizant. Although, because I've been working so intently with the angels now for, at least 10 years. I mean, very intensely. My clairs are almost on a level playing field. So if your clair, one of your strongest clairs is claircognizant, the knowing piece. It's going to be there in your head, and you're going to know that that's an angel message, and it's for real.
Yes, yes.
If you're clairsentient, of course, I'm an empath. I'm an intuitive empath, so it's kind of like I've got the double piece there. I feel it. I just feel it deep inside. And they're clairaudient. It's the hearing piece. I was sitting in my hallway at our previous house to where we are now. Nobody's in the house except me, and it wasn't a large house at all. And I'm cleaning the hall closet, and all of a sudden, as loud as could be, I got Jodi.
Right.
I went and looked through the house. Dog was sound asleep, and it's like, okay, I'm listening.
Yeah.
But it was as loud and clear as can be. So again, it depends on your clairs how it's going to come through. And you just have to open yourself. And the way I do it, of course, I always tell people, you don't pray to the angels. The angels aren't gods. Although when I get to some of the celestial thread piece, I'll explain a little bit more about that. They're not gods, and so you don't pray to them. You talk to them just like you and I are sitting here talking now, Anthony. Like you're talking to your best friend, like you are talking to your deceased grandmother, who has passed on. It's just a conversation, but I always preface those conversations with in light and love. And sometimes I even say it in the middle of the conversation just to make sure that I'm getting the angels coming through in light and love, and not any of the fallen and the dark angels, because they will try to mask themselves. And so the key piece is, what is the message? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it giving you guidance to do something or to say something? Is it being masked by how it's being said? And of course, my first degrees, my first career was in communications. So I'm a communication freak. And so I listen very close for those nuances. And I think people nowadays are pretty savvy with that, just because we do get so much information that we have to sort through. Is it real? Is it fake? What's the source? And so it's just, it's being very diligent, and even to the point of being nitpicky. Sometimes you have to take a
it's interesting what you said there, like people in our paranormal front, if they're doing like the ghost hunting, they're using these devices now that are much more What can I say there? They give you the answer straight away, like the ghost box, the obelisk, the K2 meter, and all that kind of thing. Instead of just asking out in mind and body, and as you said, with the good intentions of love, and you said light there with positive thoughts and all that, that you can actually get more better answers if you just wait and be relaxed there, you know. So going back to as well, we've got to talk about this, the Nephilim, the fallen angels and human women are supposed to have had children, and they're called Nephilim. Is that correct, Jodi?
That is correct. They are the ultimate bad boys out there, next to Satan, of course. Yes, and again, Book of Enoch, and so that got thrown out. But I've started studying the Book of Enoch. It is fascinating. I don't recommend it for people who don't have a deep faith, because there is a lot of things in there that you need to be grounded in your faith. You really do. That doesn't mean you can't sort through it, but it's going to be a real trial to do that. The Nephilim were the offspring of fallen angels and humans who got together and did the nasty, and boom, here's the offsprings. Now, the offspring of the Nephilim are the Eliotes.
Okay.
So it came down one more generation, and they were even nastier than the Nephilim. The Nephilim, of course, are described as fallen men and or giants.
Yes.
And so there again, even in the Book of Enoch, and then when you start relating it back to the Old Testament, the New Testament, you know, the Quran and some of those other things, all of those terms are used. And if you think about it, they have found the skeletons of giants all over the world.
Yes. And I was watching a documentary on it there, and there's in South America and in Europe, I think some Central Europe, they found these, I think it could be even England as well, like these giants that have never been, the skeletal remains, and it's, you know, they're massive, like, you know.
Right, exactly. And in fact, Sarah Lemos and I, psychic medium Sarah Lemos and I, we are doing a retreat out at Mount Shasta, California, the end of August, and they have found skeletal remains of giants. And there is a known vortex portal there. And now I could take us down the UFO alien path.
That's for another episode, yeah.
We could talk for weeks about this stuff.
I know. I'm sorry there. I know it's so interesting. Well, go on, carry on there, Jodi.
Yeah. But so the Nephilim, you know, they say they have the powers and the grace of an angel in the body of a human. They say that they are human, but they carry those powers, those angelic powers with them, which is what makes them quite terrifying. And they were terrified. They terrified people. They were not nice. They were quite evil, in fact. But then they came from fallen angels. They were supposedly cast into what's called the Tartarus. I think I'm pronouncing that right. It's not a term you hear very often, and that's talked about in the Book of Enoch as well. And that supposedly is translated as a place of darkness.
Right.
So again, with souls, you have that piece as well. And of course, because they were human, they have the human side. Nephilim had a soul. So this starts getting really complicated and convoluted when you're talking about the Nephilim.
Yeah, where did it?
I'm going to do a master class on them, hopefully on October 26th. It's an in-person class, but I'm thinking maybe I'll tape it and then, you know, record it and then put it out there. We'll see how good I am at that.
No, that's interesting. It is something very, very interesting, because when you're thinking about that, then you go into, it's just so much. We might touch a bit on to the next subject, the celestial thread, because we're on about probably more cosmic stuff and space and science there as well included in it. Sean, if you're still there, this is a competition. And let me just put it this. There's a doorway and there's this monster here. Make sure I can see it coming up here. The monster is called Small Skull. It's one of my children there. But Small Skull, the entity is supposed to come out of one of these colored doorways. You have a choice to pick which one, either blue, orange, red, or green. If you're still there, Sean, pick a color there. Jodi, do you want to pick a color?
Oh, I will have to go with green.
Green. We'll go for green there. Jodi goes for green. We'll reveal that at the end of the show. If you're there, if you're not there, Sean, and well, we'll go with actually Jonathan. You were up next. Jonathan, if you're still there, type in a color, because I think Sean, I don't know if Sean's coming in a bit slow there. Jonathan, if you want to pick a color between blue, orange, red, and green, just type it down. Blue, he says blue. Okay, because Sean's not come back. If he comes in the meantime, we'll probably let him come in. He's gone for blue. Okay, Sean there. Who else? Somebody said something there as well. Angel. Adrian there. Adrian, sorry, Angel. Adrian. Matthew's come with a question there, Jodi. There. You still there, Jodi? Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Matthew's coming with a question there. Is there a possibility that these Nephilim who had powers are the ancestors of some humans? Since some humans seem to have powers of our own, aka subjects of parapsychology. Yeah, so like clairvoyance, precognition, telepathy.
That is an incredibly interesting question. And I honestly, I have never thought about it, but I think there is some credence to that. I really do, because there's passages in the Bible, and I of course I keep referring back to the Bible because that's my strongest suit, you know, being a pastor and having been through seminary. There's passages in the Bible where they say that psychic mediums are evil. Well, I don't believe that they are. I believe they are incredibly gifted, and it's no different than you know, the different gifts of the spirit. I shouldn't say it's not that it's different, but it's along, you know, a similar line. And so for the parapsychology and psychic mediums and channelers, I mean, of course, there's all kinds of different words for all of these gifts. I think part of it, I think we all have the ability to some degree, but then when you think about how our human lineage is, in that we are all related at some level.
Yes.
At some point in time, we are all part of the same ancestry. And then when you think about, you know, the power of the angels with the Nephilim and, you know, having the human soul, I am going to look into this.
Yeah,
Thank you, Matthew.
Because we're touching on this sort of the next subject there, you know, and space, atoms, got to be connected there. If we took the kind of like Darwin approach away, you just say like the spiritual side of it, like, you know, as you said, the Bible, then you could say, yes, can we further down the line have got these powers from these fallen angels, you know, and it's just carried on from there, you know. We just don't know. Well, I don't know personally myself, other people's beliefs as well, you know. And then when we talk about fallen angels, I don't know, something came back to me there about Martians, Mars. There's some stuff that's been revealed there, whether to do with fallen giants coming, fallen angels coming from Mars. I don't know. It's just because of civilization, possibly. That I don't know. It's I don't know. I'll go on to the next subject there anyway. So we're going to talk about the celestial thread, Jessica. So can you tell us what the celestial thread is anyway, in your own words, and whatever you can?
Right. And I'm sure everybody kind of has maybe their own definition for it. For me, what the celestial thread is, it is the connection through all cultures and religions that bind us. And I believe that that thread is the angels, because going all the way back, Mesopotamia, the Sumerians, which was way before Christianity, way before the Bible, they knew about angels. They have the hieroglyphics, the pictures of them, the Egyptians. They were called Anunnaki. And there's a reason for that. And I'm just going to throw this in right here. And hopefully I'm not offending anyone, but this is my belief system, and I'm sticking to it, is that I believe with God, anything is possible. Absolutely anything. And so talking about, Martians and life out in other universes and other planets even, why not? And when we finally come to know everything, it's all going to fit together. It's like this giant jigsaw puzzle right now, and we're getting bits and pieces, as we move along our human timeline, until finally we get that whole picture. Like they say, the veil is getting thinner all the time. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes from people who have these gifts. And of course, the topic for another time is, have we lived past lives? Do we have past lives? I travel so much, and I will go certain places, and even my husband will say too, oh my gosh, this feels like I'm home. It feels like I just came home. We can't explain it. Our one daughter has been to a past life professional and has told her that actually her and her oldest son were brother and sister in a past life. Boom. Think about that for a minute. So all of these things, I believe, really are possible. And like I said, I'm interviewing Mike Ricksecker, and that will come out on my podcast in a couple of weeks.
That's a time lapse gentleman, is it? That's a time lapse gentleman, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Time slips and time lapse and time travel, all of that. He is incredibly knowledgeable in all of this. And so I'm so excited to talk to him, because, we talk about angels and the different dimensions, and depending on which angel you're talking about. So I'm going to duck back into the angels a little bit here. There's several different types. So the cherubims and the seraphims, who sit right up at the, closest part of the throne to God. You've got the principalities, the dominions, the thrones, the archangels, the angels. I think that's 7. But they all are in charge of different dimensions or realms. Those aren't how we know dimensions and realms to be. In other words, it's not like they're stacked one on top of each other. That's just how our human minds have decided that they are. And it's because we prioritize things. That has a lot to do with it. But
Patagonia, we have to make shapes and length, depth, width, 3 dimensions. That's the only, and time is the 4th, which we don't know really totally,
Right, because just think about angels coming through to us, no matter how they're manifesting for us. Somehow they're traveling through dimensions. I don't know if this is horizontal. I don't know if it's just instantaneous, that they are right here in this, whatever this dimension is. Scientists have ruled this the 3rd dimension, because we've got, the height, the width, and the depth. But then the other thing is you think about, Dave Schrader has had some amazing time slip experiences. Get Dave on your show, Anthony. Talk to him about some of this. Tell him Jodi sent you.
But it's interesting, going back to, like, as you said, like there's a thing called, I was watching it on the Space Channel there yesterday, about going through a black hole and atoms being spread out, being stretched out, spaghettified as they call it there. And there's a thing called, if you're coming towards a supernova, which the sun may do when it dies there, we're all going to go through a different process of change in our lives, our reality. As in, there's also a thing called strange matter, where we don't know anything about there, but it's like on the spiritual front, it may be linked to all of that there, Can you tell us, for this next part there, Can you tell us if we can control our destiny? You know, with the celestial fed, I know it's to do with the cosmos control and stuff, but can we control our own destiny as well?
If we listen to our angels, yes, we can. When our souls were created, of course, our souls are energy. Some people call it a soul contract. I don't know that that's the right word. Um, I I can say it was in agreement. And again, because we have free will, um, there's times we don't honor that agreement, and then there's times that we do. If we listen to our angels, the job of the angels is to keep us on that path of that agreement. And so, as far as destiny, I also believe that we are not meant to have perfect lives because we learn from every experience that we have. We grow from it. We become better people. We become better humans based on trials, tribulations, good times, bad times, all of that. So when you say control our destiny, I believe that we have to go through certain things to become a completely full and enlightened human being. Does that make sense?
Yes, we have to experience the top. I think there's a saying: the rough with the tough, the falls with the like, the tumble, and something like that. You know, we have to experience the bad times to have the good times as well. We can't just have it plain sailing. There's going to be some things in life that aren't going to be especially good for us there, but we learn from that. It makes us stronger as a person then as well. And it is good to have those, like going back, as you said, probably the material things there. Not having the material things makes you stronger as well, you know, because you're not up to what people say or do, and you sort of supposedly you're behind the times. But I think the way civilization is that, you know, that material things are what they're called, materials, and not the whole world is not going around that kind of same way that we're living. The world is not all by cash and card. You know, not every place in the world has got a little box saying that you just key in your card, then you can pay for stuff. Because if you're stuck in the Amazon or stuck somewhere else in the world, you haven't got that. You know, so I know that cash is king. You know, you know, sort of, but not in material ways. There, you know. But Matthew says, Flynn says, we'll go back to the subject even a bit more. Flynn says, this is so interesting topic, as Anthony knows what I do. He's an empath and a reader myself. Yeah, Flynn does readings as well, card readings, and he's an empath as well there, Jodi.
Nice.
Matthew says, thank you, Jodi, so much for answering my questions. I have to head out, but Jodi, I'd love to chat with you again. Anthony, I'll drop me a message later on, mate. Take care. As well, Matthew's from California himself as well, and he's got a podcast as well, Phantom Journeys as well. And
Matthew needs to come to Mount Shasta.
Yeah.
Matthew needs to come to Mount Shasta where Sarah Lemos and I are going to be, because this is so much of what her and I are going to be talking about. Like I said, you know, she's a psychic medium. And so, Matthew, you would love that.
Did you say her name's Sarah Reynolds?
Intimate.
Did you say her name's Sarah Reynolds? Sarah Reynolds?
Lemos. It's Lemos.
Oh, Lemos. Sarah Lemos. Sorry,
yes.
Sorry. But going back to celestial thread there as well, I was going to say, so our beliefs and all that kind of systems and all that, do you think like the cosmos has the same kind of, going back to destiny again, has the same path for people or individuals you could say that would live on another planet or another orbiting satellite? Do you think they would have the same or even better chances of finding nirvana on those kind of planes as well?
I think they're on level playing field with us. I really do. I think that ultimately the entire universes, I'm going to say all of creation, because that's basically what it is. All of creation eventually is going to end up at the same point with the same knowledge. And as you say, and then we will have all reached nirvana together. Interesting piece with the aliens. I believe that when we look up at the night sky, we are looking at angels. And that some of those angels are also part of our alien world. This is going to get you, Anthony.
I'm trying to put everything into a sort of pattern there, you know, but it's very interesting. The religion and space it's closer than what people think, you know. Go ahead, Jodi.
It's okay. I just read this, that it is believed now that there are some aliens, because people are starting to believe that there is this angel connection, that some of the angels are Nephilim.
Okay, so some of the aliens are Nephilim, is it? Yeah, it's interesting there, you know, because that goes back to the Greys and the Giants then as well. No, that's what got me thinking as well, you know, about the Greys, the tall, telepathy, using different way of communication. That's the Giants, you know, and abduction, women, and all that, you know. They might make a mistake with a man now and again. I don't know. All right, we'll put him back down again. Gary did that wrong.
And see, that's another piece with Mount Shasta where we're going to be. Is there's been UFO alien sightings there. In fact, they believe Mount Shasta, that there's a lost city in there that was established by aliens. And of course, like I said, there's this vortex, and it is an incredibly mystical, paranormal, supernatural, magical, place.
It's so interesting that everything could be so connected then as well, you know. I don't know, it's for another subject there. Flynn's laughing his face off anyway, so you know, so I don't know if they abduct me anyway, you know. There's nothing for me to abduct, probably. Not tonight anyway, you know. Probably not, definitely not tonight, hopefully not there anyway. The skylight is above me, though. I can see it there. You can see the light shining off the skylight.
Nice.
We're just going to say, Jodi, we're probably coming up, that's probably the last question, but we're going to say, what have you got coming up in the future, and where can people follow you on?
Oh, okay, yes. Of course, it's Survivor Angels - Chaplain Jodi. My website is chaplainjodi.me, like in me, myself, and I, me. I am on TikTok. I am on Instagram. I am on Facebook. Of course, my podcast is on YouTube and Spotify and Pandora, iHeart, Apple Music, all of those. Again, just put in Survivor Angels podcast. Coming up, I have an event June 1st, and this goes back to what I really started Survivor Angels for, is for people who, you know, struggle with life, have been through trauma, and your emotions get all out of whack. And so I have 7 professionals coming in to help guide people with lots of tools and resources to help manage their emotions. And of course, I'll bring in the angel piece, being, you know, an angel light worker and a shadow healer, and love my angels. Then what's coming up next? Of course, I've got the podcast with Mike Ricksecker that will drop in a couple of weeks. So cool. Definitely, you know, start following my podcast so you can get in on that. I will be at Michigan Paragon in August. I'm going to Greece in August, where I'm going to be doing research on the celestial thread, because Greek mythology ties in with the whole Egyptian celestial thread piece in Mesopotamia. And I am going to be starting a docuseries on the celestial thread within the next year. I was recently in Central America, in Panama, and was able to interview an indigenous tribe leader. I had to have an interpreter, a translator there, but what he told me about their belief in angels was incredible, and it definitely follows the thread. Then, of course, Sarah Lemos and I are doing the retreat in Mount Shasta, California. It's Labor Day weekend, August 30th and 31st. Going to Rock Island Paracon. Also, did I mention Greece? Yeah, I said the Greece piece. Going to Norway.
Greece a lot of times. Norway, Norway, beautiful.
Yep, going to Norway, where I'm going to delve into some of the Norse mythology and see where that celestial thread comes in there. And then in December, I'm going to Hungary, Austria, and Germany. That's a little bit more of a pleasure piece. We're doing a river cruise, my husband and I, but I'm going to do as much research and everything as I can while I'm there as well. And of course, I'm always looking for people that have interesting angel stories that want to come on my podcast, and they can, through Messenger on Facebook or on my website, chaplainjodi.me, there is a contact link, and you can get a hold of me there as well. So, and I love to hear those stories.
Yeah, so if you're watching these, if you're any part of any team there, or if you just want to let Jodi know as well, share your experience there as well with angels as well. It's interesting you mentioned that Egypt and Greece. I'm not too sure. I heard somewhere about Cleopatra that they actually find there's actually traces of probably scriptures there relating to her being going over the water to be buried in some area. I don't know if it's Greece, somewhere around that area. That there's somewhere out of Egypt it was where she was supposed to be buried there, but I have to look out into that more, but we come to the competition time. So this is it. We're looking for small skull. So here it is. We'll just put it up in the stream. So here it goes. Jodi, you said the green doorway. Jonathan,
Yes.
Jonathan, you said the blue. So let's see where small skull is, and you have a chance to go into the Halloween mega draw. Now I don't know. I've done this ages ago. I don't know what it is. So let's see. What a pity. No. Sorry, unfortunately, there, Jodi and Jonathan, it was the red one. I didn't even know myself. That's unfortunate there. But tune in for the next show there. We'll have a chance to enter the competition again. And on the next show, we'll be talking to the occult family and dubbed their real life Addams family. Let's all go kicking off here with the Addams family. I think, was it Wednesday's being filmed over here now at the moment for Netflix there. But they're going to be talking about themselves, the occult family, also My Haunted Hotel, which is a location in England, which is, I think it's a pub, it's a hotel, but it's supposed to be very haunted, and a lot of people have been going to that recently. And also the occult room artifacts. So they've got a special room in the house where they've got loads of haunted objects there. Jodi, it's been a pleasure to chat to you.
This has been wonderful. I love talking to you, Anthony. We have to do this more often. Now you're going to have to come on my podcast again.
Definitely. That was a pleasure talking to you and being interviewed by you there as well. It must have been I think it was over a year ago. It was for the convention there over in Ireland here. Just a few more shout outs to Jonathan says, thank you. Really enjoyed listening to Jodi. Yes, it's all connected. We've all, there's, apart from religion and space, and it's all connected there as well. Flynn says, and science as well. Wishing you the very best in your upcoming endeavors, says Flynn there. I think Jonathan was just a bit miffed off that he got the wrong doorway with the entity. Small skull. Irene says, great show, very interesting. Thank you both. Thank you, Irene. Irene's in California as well at the moment there.
Irene, come to Mount Shasta.
Yeah. Everyone's. There's more people in America watching this than there is here in Ireland at the moment. Jonathan says, laugh out loud. Jonathan and Fermanagh there. I hope to get up to Fermanagh as well there. If you're watching here in Ireland now at the moment, if you're coming off the show there, check outside because you might see the northern lights. You might see a purple or green sky there. And it's daytime there, isn't it, Jodi?
Yeah, it still is. We're supposed to get the northern lights, though, tonight, too. So keep it fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Okay, so I'm going to say Slán go fóill and bye to everyone. Hope you're all keeping good. And I won't see you next time. I'll see you in the near distance. Goodbye for now.